Policy? What's policy? Hey, speaking of policy, welcome everyone. It's SVT time. It is Tuesday. It's actually been a while. Yeah, this is episode 85.
Wow.
As you can see, it's myself and Dom. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Can we find?
Yeah, Paul and Rachel are already on board.
What's up, guys?
Like clockwork. In fact, I think we're gonna have to have Paul and Rachel on at some point, just so we can associate a name with a face, but or a face with a name. Yeah, as the title, as the title says, excuse me.
Cheers.
So, cheers. I don't.
Oh, come on. Where's your Ampeg? I mean, that's a good show, though.
No, I know, but somewhere along the line, I don't even know if I'm actually supposed to show that. Somewhere along the line, I lost my Ampeg mugs, so I'm gonna have to buy a couple of Ampeg mugs. And I never got my yellow anniversary.
Yes, these are 75th anniversary.
Yeah, dude, you got to show that off.
Make sure I don't like run over my dog behind me. And they're pretty freaking awesome. This is from like an old 70s ad, I think.
Yeah, that's from the plug. So that's what plugins is doing for us right now. They're coming up with all these really cool ideas for vintage ads and T-shirts, and that's the actual ad.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
the black and white ad.
It's psychedelic. I like it. And then there's one of 75 of these posters made of Ant Man, which was like a really cool ad in, I think, Rolling Stone in 71.
I think so.
There's only 75 of those made. So get them quick.
Yeah. So in fact, I think if it's a whole package, I think you can order the whole package on the merch site.
Yeah.
And we'll get the URL up here in a second. If
is ampegmerch.com.
Ampegmerch.com. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, did you know Ampeg did a flute?
No way.
Oh, actually, it was called the Lyricon. So cool. it was basically a MIDI wind controller.
That is cool.
And I'm not going to dig for the photo of it. I'll find it and I'll have Erin post it on socials. But I found one at a museum in Pennsylvania. It was a synthesizer museum, and they actually had a working unit there. So I took a photo of it, but I'll try EMEAP, EMEEAP, I think it is.
Okay.
Is the museum.
I've heard of a lot of those types of instruments, but I never knew Ampeg made one of those.
Yeah, we also did it. We also did a guitar too, like a MIDI controller guitar. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's
cool. So I know I saw that ad for the Lyricon and I was like, oh, that. So yeah.
Well, now that we're talking the future of Ampeg and future of Ampeg products, does anybody want a Lyricon V2?
Yeah. Does anybody want a Lyricon? Any of you horn players out there want a?
You could actually do that with Line 6 technology.
Yeah. Right. We probably could actually. And not to harp on. There's another musical reference. Harp on. God, it's way too much coffee. Not to stay on the Lyricon thing, but if any of you guys follow Tom Scott, the famous sax player, on his TikTok channel, he talks about some of the tracks he actually used the Lyricon on. So if you really want to dive deep, look up Tom Scott, find his channel, and he'll show you some of the tracks that you never would have thought was a Lyricon that he played on. So I'll shut up about it now.
That's awesome.
Oh.
Drop bass. We just want the big stud to come back. What is the big stud? Is that?
Yeah, no. The drop bass. You know what, dude? I'm sorry. I will be
classic line that you always give when we bring up reissuing like any of the Reverb Rocket or anything like that.
Saw that movie, The Ship Sank, and there was plenty of room on the door for Jack. Just gonna leave it at that. Anyways,
I want to know what is the big stud. I should know what this is. I don't.
Oh, so the big stud was Ampeg's version of a P bass.
How did I not know this?
And I have a feeling Haji's going to have a link to the big stud before I can actually look it up here. But yeah, Ampeg did a bunch of basses.
I have a hunch that people don't want to go to bigstud.com. I don't think that's going to be it.
No, yeah, I would not recommend going to bigstud.com. That's probably a good idea. But yeah, they did. Obviously we did the scroll bass and the Dan Armstrong bass, but they also did this thing called the Big Stud and guitars too. Here it is.
There we go. Oh yeah, that's cool.
Big Stud. So they did like an SG copy. They did a Fender P bass copy. And these
brush up on this history book.
So if I'm not mistaken, these things were Ampeg branded, but they were built by Hagstrom.
Mm-hmm. They look like Hagstrom.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. They're cool basses. I get a lot of emails from folks, hey, I found this in a store. They're not worth a lot of money other than they were cool, and you don't see a lot of them. They're basically a plywood instrument with kind of a wonky neck. But, if you can find one for a few $100, I probably wouldn't spend more than maybe $500-600 on the top end for something like that. So anybody that's interested, this is the book that I'm getting all my information from.
It's a great book.
It's available through Hal Leonard. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it basically anywhere books are sold. I don't think there's a digital version of it right now, but this takes you through the history up until through the St. Louis music era. It doesn't cover Loud and of course Yamaha Guitar Group, which I suppose I can take this down now, huh?
We need a new edition with quotes from the Ampeg guy.
So, we're trying to. So, Greg Hopkins, who runs Vintage Amp Restoration, he restores old Fenders and Ampegs, and Bill Moore. I think Bill has commented on here a couple of times.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're talking about doing a revision, but we got to get them out to an AM show and get them out to Calabasas so they can talk to us. So,
yeah, I'm looking at this link Haji sent, and these are pretty stinking cool. Or this Big Stud listed them.
Looks like we'd have to do a Lyricon 3.
There's a 1 and 2 apparently.
Apparently so. Wow. Haji's. We just want the Big Stud to come back. That is so funny, man.
It's awesome.
I am back. All right, that's awful. That's awful.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. So, anyways, man, I know we didn't come here to talk about us, but I can't. Eric, I have no idea, but whatever. Yep. Sorry.
Looks like you can. I'm saying.
Yeah. So we are reading comments that are coming in as we're talking, but the main reason why we're doing SVT time today is obviously we don't have an artist to chat with, but two things. Number one, our sister company, Line 6, just made a huge launch that has been years and years in the making. The stadium, the Helix Stadium, and I hats off to everybody, including Dom. I know you kind of worked on it as well to some degree, but just everybody at YGG. It was, hats off to all the work that went into it, the research. The launch was phenomenal. Yeah. I was out in Calabasas last week for that. And it's just, for guitar players, but also for bass players, because I know there's a growing, actually we had Tony from Helix for Basis, or Basis Helix Group.
I think your Basis, I think.
Yeah, that came out, and he obviously lives in Simi, and so yeah, I mean, there's a growing number of bassists that are adopting the Helix, mostly the HX Stomp because of its compactness, and you can put it on a pedal board. But I know there are some bass players out there that are using Helix Floor and probably will migrate over to Stadium. And there's some cool things in Stadium that Helix Floor doesn't do. So my biggest gripe, and Line 6 guys, if you're listening, you got to put the SVT DI in there. And and I know there's a way to do it.
Honestly, they probably are going to be like, well, talk to Dom, because I've been adamant about not giving the Helix world everything that's in SVT.
Oh, that's true. So
you're going to get a lot of stuff from SVT Suite that has been ported into Stadium,
Yeah.
actually.
So I just threw you under the bus essentially.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But
I agree that the SVT-DI should be in everything.
and you, if I'm not mistaken, this new stadium, you will be able to capture things. So I don't know if you'll be able to capture an SVT-DI and put it in. I don't know.
I think theoretically, yeah, you should
Yeah.
be.
But so it kind of it sparks the question, and you know where I'm going with this. And just as a complete disclaimer or disclosure, just for legal reasons, we can't. We want to hear everybody's opinions on what you need and what you would like to see from Ampeg, but we can't get into specific products. Obviously, because if you suggest that to us and we do come out with it, then we owe you a royalty. But no, so, for obvious reasons, like I said, if you want to talk about features that you would like to see, the bigger question that I think we have is, do we have permission from our fan base and from our customers and our users of over 60 years now? Do we have permission to go that route, to start venturing, to start venturing into the digital realm of Ampeg?
Yeah.
And I know we ask this anecdotally, every now and then we talk about, can we do this? And guys like, yeah, if it sounds good. But seriously, and I'll preface
much like Jonathan's comment, if you brought back the vintage, like a lot of people, obviously Ampeg is synonymous with all tube and vintage and that incredible, these amps right here, the B15 and SVT, like very obvious, like that is what Ampeg is, and that we will never, well, I say we'll never stop making them. We're not currently making a B15, but we're working on it. But if we in addition to what Ampeg is known for, we want to know what problems do you want solved with digital gear that maybe it's not being solved now, or I mean, obviously, like our competitors, like we see the anagram come out, things like that. Are people quick to adopt that? Do we feel like if Ampeg did something of that nature, would it be like, oh, this is weird, this is Ampeg, it shouldn't be, that kind of thing? We will always be driven by what sounds the best, obviously, and what can be like industry standard tone. But it's all about, Ampeg, when you look at the B15 and you look at the SVT, those were incredibly innovative solutions for the time. They're completely off the wall.
off the wall.
So though that has become the legacy, and everybody equates Ampeg with legacy and these iconic designs, those designs were very forward thinking of their time. So we do want to bring back that spirit of innovation a little bit more, and not just completely always, ace in the back pocket kind of SVT. We can always pull the SVT card and all that stuff and do the tube thing. But what solutions are going to basically make your life a lot easier and still give you that sonic quality?
And I've known this, since I've worked with the brand, or I've just kind of discovered this since working with the brand that has a 70+ year history. A lot of people, and we're seeing it here, and I love the comments.
Yeah.
Bring back this, or reissue this, or bring back that. And yeah, I would love, obviously there are products that we always would love to see come back. I would love to see a 1967 Panhead come back from Harley Davidson, but they're not going to do it. But it's talking about the future, and like Dom was saying, moving forward with innovation. What, something that we've never done before, that people might say, wow, that's kind of crazy. Like that's almost on the borderline of taking a risk. But yeah, you never know. I mean, I love the blue diamond, the black diamond. I love the idea of guitar amps. I know guitar professionals. I get you talking about Harleys now. But
I think the two, like the SVT-DI and the Reverb Rock, are like the two most requested things, and we love both of them.
Yeah. And guitar amps, Ampeg guitar amps. It's funny. Most players my age, unless you grew up east of the Mississippi and were a big Rolling Stones fan, or like a rockabilly fan, a lot of people didn't know about Ampeg guitar amps like the Reverber Rocket or the Jet. So, but yeah, it's again, looking into the future, and I will say, um, at least as long as hopefully I'm working for the brand, we'll always make a tube amp. We'll always make an SVT.
Yeah.
We'll always make hopefully the V4, which I don't see why we wouldn't make a V4 because it's still a great sounding and selling amp. But and just so you guys know, anybody that's in retail or sales or manufacturing, what is the number one reason why a company discontinues a product? Nobody buys it.
Yeah.
So,
Number
that,
two is what we call EOL, end of life parts.
yeah,
Which is also that's why we say as long as they're making tubes, we'll have tube amps. But
yeah,
might be a world in which tubes are no longer a thing.
yeah,
I hope that's
yeah,
not a reality, or we've find some incredible alternative to a tube that sounds identical to a tube. But
yeah.
yeah,
And ironically, I think Ampeg, specifically talking about bass amps, I think Ampeg is like the 4 Pro and the 3 Pro is the longest tenured production amplifier
yeah,
amongst any other. I could be bold in saying that. Fender obviously has the Bassman, or different reiterations of the Bassman, but I'm talking specifically bass amps.
UT's 50 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. The SVT is 50 years old, and then 3 Pro and 4 Pro are bordering on 25, 30 years.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
I love the compact size B15 and SVT pedal DI. That's somebody after my own heart.
yeah. Now, how many of you guys and gals, and how many of you are actually using some form of a like an HX Stomp or the anagram thing, or and please don't, I know we're going to get a lot of yeah, as long as it's under $300, it's going to be
Yeah.
it's like, yeah.
Well,
But how many,
one tube is a tough thing.
yeah, let's still use tubes are not going anywhere. Kevin, you're absolutely right. And I think the US military still uses tubes for that same reason. But once you get the military involved and they start hoarding tubes, our small little music industry is no longer a priority.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a great point.
Yeah, DI out from the Heritage SVT seals is essentially SVT DI.
Yeah.
But totally in line with that.
But it's an 85-pound DI.
Most people use Stomps and SGT DI together, or Stomp and the Noble together, stuff like that. So I'm curious if those things were combined, if you had like something that was tube driven but also had digital capabilities, would that freak people out? Would that be like, who cares as long as it does the thing we need it to do? Curious about that.
Yeah, it's and again, like I said, when Yamaha first bought Ampeg, that was the big concern was, we're going to turn everything digital. And even to this day, I mean, there's no, you and I talk all the time. There's never that discussion of everything is just going to be digital, all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
But, I got to say in the last couple of years, how do I, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. I'm trying to figure out how do I take this down. Drop bass's comments
here. Yeah.
Huh?
But awesome comments by Dave and Drop Bass.
I can't find it. Oh, thank you, Haji. Did you do that, or did Haji do that? I think Haji did it. But yeah, so yeah, I lost my train of thought there. Obviously, since within the last, since 2018 when Yamaha bought Ampeg, and we've been part of the Yamaha family, we've looked at the SVT suite was actually the first foray into, can we do this? Can we do it authentically? And I think we've done a really good job of it, coming from every audio engineer and front of house guy and anybody that has used it, that have also used some of the other brands of Ampeg plugins, have all come back and said, this is by far like really, really cool, like by far the best
Yeah.
and most usable. So I think I think in terms of technology, we're there. Like we can do it. And then it comes down to a matter of convenience. It comes down to a matter of, there are some guys like myself that are just convinced that, forgive me for saying this, Tom, but nothing will ever sound like a tube amp.
Yeah.
But if we're 95% there, yeah, I'll buy into it. Absolutely. Or even if we're 90% there, even 80, there's a percentage game there, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same reason why, we all walk around listening to MP3s on these things instead of carrying around WAV files or CDs or records. It's a matter of convenience. So
yeah, and that's where my big thing is like there's no advantage to digital unless it like significantly enhances the user experience.
Yeah.
There's no point in making it digital, just even if it sounds like tubes, just to make it digital. So rest assured, we don't have that mindset of like it just needs to be digital just because.
Yeah, right. Obviously, and again, it comes down to, like we always say, it comes down to bass solutions for bass players. Whether it's a tube amp, whether it's a software, a plug-in for your computer, or we're interested in hearing all sorts of ideas.
People like capture technology. Would people prefer just a capture box that captures all your old gear, or something that actually emulates your old gear?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, just a box that you can capture things with. Like I said, so yeah, I'm seeing a lot of responses here. Some guys, Scott's using an SCRDI. I think Rachel said he's using Fractal. Rachel, I won't hold that against you. No, I'm just kidding. You know what? Yeah, they're all great. Haji himself, SVT CL and 3 Pro since 94, 4 Pro since 97. Myself, SVT. I gotta say, I've used 4 Pros and 3 Pros, and I've always liked the hybrid idea. I was just thinking about this morning too, but I'm either an all solid state type guy or an all tube type guy. For some reason, the 3 Pros and the 4 Pros kind of give me a false sense of security or warmth.
4 Pro might be my go-to of all.
Yeah, right.
I like how it takes pedals the most.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. So, but yeah, lately I've been using the Venture V12 and on all sorts of different cabinets.
Steve brings up a good point in terms of, he said, still on old school pedals into SVT or B15. I love that. And I'm curious, specifically with like single stomps, if Ampeg were to do like a whole new line of single stomps, if it sounded incredible, would you care what's under the hood? Would you care if it was analog or digital?
Right.
Like there's so many great sounding digital guitar pedals that look like analog, and under the hood they're not. I feel like Guitar World is a little more open-minded in terms of the under the hood.
Yeah. And you also have to consider the fact, like you said, a lot of pedals, you'd be surprised how many pedals aren't analog, that are digital under the hood and they sound analog, and not that they're hiding anything, but there's also a cost of manufacturing involved.
Yeah.
If we could offer a pedal, the same pedal in a digital format for significantly less money to the consumer than what we could offer a digital pedal, you know what I mean? And I know, we're talking prices passed on to the consumer, basically.
Yeah.
A $500 pedal versus a $129 pedal, and right now, everything right now that we do is analog. Outside of the SGT DI, which the only thing digital on that is the IR section.
Yeah.
Everything else is all analog, which I got to show you this. I know I showed you this, Dom, in an email, but
oh, wow.
So for anybody, and I had a customer, an artist, email me saying, "Hey man, I'm having a hard time seeing the lines on my SGT DI AV." And I don't know if you can see this in the picture or not,
Mm-hmm.
but I had my daughter, who's basically has surgical hands, go in with a fine point Sharpie and just highlighted the black line. They're black already, but one thing we noticed is, depending on how you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're white, sometimes they're not visible, and sometimes they're like visibly black, like easy to see.
Yeah.
So she just went in with a Sharpie and just highlighted the lines, and it came out. I think it came out, as we say here in Boston, came out pissa.
Looks great. Yeah, those are
So
like those old school stereo knobs, and it was
yeah,
essentially perfected to have black in every light, or to look black in every lighting, and then wait, months to get it out, or just get it out and have that little hack. And I chose to just get it out
yeah,
because
right.
the world needs it. I don't want to wait months just for that, but that's a great hack to be able
Yeah,
to.
and it's an easy hack. You just, like I said, just get one of those fine point Sharpies that looks like a pen.
Yep.
I don't know if I have one here, but
Kirk, I
there.
saw you said Line 6 should update their SVT model with ultra low and ultra high, since it's missing in the SVT norm and bright models. Can confirm that has already been done.
See that?
I won't give too much away, but I'm staring at it right now, and let me reconfirm. Yep, I'm staring at an ultra high and ultra low, so that will be solved.
Yep. Man, I'm losing my train of thought again. Not nearly enough coffee this morning.
I want to put Steve's comment up there.
I will,
because I feel very encouraged by that. Thank you.
as long as it kicks ass and sounds great. I've known Steve for years too. Steve's an old Facebook buddy, and Steve, do you still have your Akai, your deep impact pedal? Steve was one of the first guys that, like,
Yeah, I remember you got that recommended to you.
yeah, well, recommended how much they're selling on Reverb, because I had 3 at one time. And I was like, oh, I could probably put my kid through first semester of college just selling one of them.
Arthur, what's up, man?
Here he is.
That's one of our very own Heritage amp builders right
Yep.
there.
So if you own you own a Heritage CL or a Heritage 50, chances are Arthur has had his hands on that amplifier. So there you go.
But it's probably still signed Dino. I'm kidding.
Don't even go there. Oh my God. I'll have to tell that story someday, but yeah.
You gotta tell Arthur that. I don't think he knows.
What's that?
I don't think Arthur knows that story. We got to tell him one day.
Yeah, we'll tell Arthur that story. But yeah, if you own an earlier Heritage SVT CL, no 50th, but if you own an earlier Heritage SVT CL, there's a good chance that my signature, or Haji, I know Haji signed off on some too. I signed off on some, and I didn't even know I signed off on some. So,
that was pre-Yamaha era.
That was yeah. So here's what I will do. If you own a Heritage CL that was signed by me, and I mean, like, with my signature, my actual signature, send me a picture of it with your amp, or a picture of you, or whatever. If you want, please, you with the amp with the tag, and I will send you a T-shirt in your size.
Nice.
Personally, and that's not from Ampeg. That's from me. I will
we
do
got
that.
a Haji signed V15. That's awesome. I want that.
Oh, cool. I can't speak for Haji, Steve, unfortunately, but yeah, seriously, I will buy you a T-shirt in your size and have it mailed to you. And I'll tell you the story, what happened.
Drop Bass brought up a good point with any plans for powered cabinets. I'm really curious in the bass world if bassists are as adopting of the powered cab as guitarists are. I mean, because if you're using any dark glass gear, or you're using the HX Stomp, anything digital where it's like you have this whole, it doesn't have to be digital, but it's mostly digital in this world. You have a modeler, you have an effects unit, has amp modeling on it. You don't need anything but a powered cabinet. Are bassists, are you guys ready for that kind of thing? And B, What form factors are we talking? Are
Hmm.
we typical 15, 410, 212 kind of situation? Would we expect an 810 power cab?
Oh God.
I know.
Yeah.
An
Yeah. I mean,
8x8 power cab, you know?
and the the physical
Yeah.
weight considerations. I mean, obviously, it would be Class D.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like an acoustic 360
Yeah.
with a big old power amp in the bottom of the cabinet. But yeah, interesting. I mean, that's a great question, drop bass, because again, more and more players are going to pedal boards
Yeah.
with preamps, and now I'm seeing some pedal boards that have multiple preamps. You
Mhm.
know, somebody had posted. I don't remember who it was, but they posted their pedal board and it had an SGTDI on it. It had a HX Stomp, but then it also had one of the new Jad Freer, um, I think it's the Capos preamps on it, which is supposedly a really good preamp too. But um, that's an interesting question. Like, if you had a powered cabinet, would you necessarily need an amplifier with everything that's going on your pedal board?
Yeah.
Kind of
Ampeg
cool.
FRFR, yeah.
Kevin,
For a minute.
I don't know. To me, a sine or square analog wave is more interesting than 001s. That's true.
Fair.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Great question on the power cab or powered cabinet. Um, again, has anybody? Let's see if anybody answered Ampeg Active
I love the
using.
idea of wedge design too. I do miss it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like everybody was doing wedge and then nobody was doing wedge.
Yep.
And
Yep.
now it seems like people almost need wedge more because they're doing in-ears and it's like the only thing shooting at them.
Yeah. Who here is? I know there's an age-old question, but who here is still using? Who here is using in-ears or thinking about using in-ears, or swears they'll never go in-ears again? Because that kind of ties into the digital thing too. It ties into the floorboard, self-contained preamp. I know, like I'll use the SGTDI just to feed my in-ear signal, so I can adjust what it sounds like in my ears and not screw up what front of house needs to hear, and without bugging them. So
I also want to know if people swear by their IEMs specifically for like being a bassist, because I still have not found like the magical IEM that makes bass like really sound and feel great in your ears. I won't say what I use, but I'm looking for replacements.
yeah. I will say there was one brand that I tried. They sent me a pair to use, and they were probably IEM all the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were probably they were way better than what I'm currently using now, but they were $3,000.
Yeah.
And that's
I got an artist discount on the ones that I was going to do, and they were probably half that, but had the most drivers I've ever heard of, and it was like embarrassingly a lot of drivers in the actual unit, and I compared them to my 10-year-old other ones, and they like were worse. So it's just like, what is going on here?
Hey, we got to have Kirk on here at some point too, because
Yeah.
I know Kirk is always calling in, and Kirk is an Ampeg guy. He's been using it, and he's a road dog like us, or like I used to be. I guess I'm not a road dog anymore.
Am I correct in assuming that Kirk also uses SVT Suite Live?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kirk has been asking about using SVT Suite and latency, and which is a really interesting concept about
that's why we wanted to make the standalone version, so you didn't even need to really have a DAW running. You could just like throw it up in your laptop.
Yeah, that would be very interesting to be able to walk into a gig with your laptop and totally freak out front of house.
Yeah.
Say, here's my rig.
The same front of house person that would complain about you bringing your 810, and now they're probably looking at a laptop like, what are you doing?
They still complain about bringing an 810 cab. It's 50 years later, they're still bitching about bringing an 810 cab. Ross, almost all my gigs are IEMs these days. So Ross, are you when it's just IEMs? That's you're not using a rig or anything to move air behind you. It's all in ears. Let us know there.
Yeah.
And then Steve is, yeah. It seems like it's kind of, man. You know that the age old question you ask 100 bass players and you're going to get 100
Yeah.
different answers, which is what we want. That's you know, again, we're trying to get everybody's ideas on what they need that we as a brand can help fulfill.
Mhm.
You know, yep. Ross is saying 100% IEMs. That's wild. That's that is, and I know a lot of players are going that way. A lot of players are doing that, and I have mixed feelings about it. I know Dom, you've done IEM only gigs, and I have too, and I love the convenience of just walking in with a DI and a pedal board and a set of ears.
Mhm.
You
It's not.
know,
And you know what bums me out is in the world of this is so lame to say, but I think some people will understand this. In the world of social media, where you have to have like all this coverage of your show, like, can you imagine in the 60s through the 90s of like having an on stage, like you're just capturing a performance, how cool that would sound with all the amps and everything. Now it's just like stale drum set, like without
yeah,
any like there's no side fills on stage.
yeah,
It's kind of like lifeless. Like we did a show in Vegas not that long ago, and it was like that kind of thing where we were like capturing content. I'm like, this sounds just like a hollow drum kit.
yeah, and yeah. Somebody else was saying that too. Like, yeah, if you're like, and not even you're just capturing it. If you're front row,
Oh yeah.
you're all you're hearing is drums, and you know what I mean. You're not getting the full effect of being out in the house. And
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of really pro front of house engineers will design a rig so that no matter where you're sitting, you'll hear it. But
Mhm.
some of the smaller venues, if you're, yeah, can you imagine sitting in for all you're hearing is drums?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially hearing what the bassist is hearing when he takes out his in-ears.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, that's great, Ross. That's a good approach.
there you go.
Subs with you. If anything, we could have power cabs just so people can make their own side fills.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, first of all, like I said, I'm getting back to my original question here. Is who here is using an HX stomp or an HX floor or a Helix floor? Excuse me. Just curious. I know a couple of people have already commented in, but do you think, Dom, that at some point, and again, it all depends on the permission we're given, that Ampeg would do something in an Ampeg vein, you know?
Yeah.
And I know the question has come up too, and this kind of borderlines a little bit of a heated debate, but if a non amp brand like, well, let's say Line 6, or in the past I was using a Zoom, was it the B3, I think it is, which was a really cool pedal.
Yeah.
And drop bass, I'll answer your question here in a second. If it's a non-bass amp brand, they have permission to say, well, we're going to put a Harkey in here, we're going to put an Aguilar, we're going to put a GK, we're going to put an Ampeg, and obviously when I'm using those pedals, I'm gravitating towards the Ampegs. But an bass amp brand specific, say like Ampeg, is it weird or is it unethical or just not right for a brand like Ampeg to say, you know what, we're gonna model the other brands amps?
Mm-hmm.
That gets really weird because obviously, I don't know, are we admitting that there's other bass amps other than Ampeg? Because in my opinion, there really isn't.
Right.
For my ears,
For
I'm
yours.
not saying,
Yeah.
for my ears, it's all Ampeg, but or are we just building a product that suits your needs as the bass player, whether you like an Ampeg amp or not? Maybe you do have a song that you need that GK sound or that Aguilar sound, or you know what I mean? Does that sound weird?
No, it's a good
Ask
point,
that question.
because you think of a company like, yeah, I mean, Dave brings it up with Dark Glass. If they can do it, so can Ampeg. And even Line 6. Like, you look at Line 6, they seemingly, because they're known for modeling, have almost more permission to model a bunch of different amps and throw it in there, where even if we had something voiced like a GK or something, but it was Ampeg original, like, would people be weirded out by that? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in one respect, we're serving the bass player for whatever their needs are. We're giving them a product that runs the gamut.
Yep.
But in the other respect, well, number one, I hate to say competition. We're supporting our competition,
Yeah.
which we do. I mean, I have no problem talking to Bob Galian or well, it used to be the Daves from Aguilar, and any one of our competitors. I know the owners or former owners of the company to talk to them. But we're supporting them, but also, we're putting out an Ampeg specific brand.
Yeah.
So it's a weird question, and it's something that I ask a lot of customers about. It's like, does that feel weird to you that we would do something like that, or should we just say no? If you want that type of amp, go buy that amp.
Yeah.
Like, don't buy an Ampeg amp because you want that type of a sound. Not necessarily an amp, but an Ampeg modeler. Anyways.
Well, it's funny because everyone's, bringing up the fact that pretty much any other bass company at some point has done an SVT or B15
Yeah.
clone or try or attempt,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that is the difference between the legacy of our brand versus other brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, and there are brands that we do look at, 4 or 5 episodes ago, we had Tim Storaci, who from Why Not, who's an amazing bass player, but he's also one of the product guys for SansAmp.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, the relationship between Ampeg and SansAmp, yes, we are competitors, but it's been so synonymous with one another for the last 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
We used to say, you can't take your SVT on the road, buy a bass driver. Now we can say, well, you've got the SCR DI and now the SGT DI, which, anyways, I'm just sticking my foot deeper and deeper in my mouth until I'm going to choke. Anyways, let me,
yeah. Somebody was asking how you split up your signal.
So it all depends on who I'm working with, in terms of who I know is at front of house, and if we do have a monitor engineer, and the artist that I'm working with too. And I only work with so many different artists when I'm in this type of capacity, but generally I will I will take the SGT DI and XLR out the front of house. I'm trying to remember now. I remember how I used to do it on the SCR DI, and it was really convoluted because it involved using the aux in, and but no, what I will do is, now I think of it, I'll take the SGT DI and I won't send that to front of house. I'll send through out into my board, back out to my amp, and it generally goes through an HX stomp into an SVT DI. And then that goes out the front of house. And then I will take the XLR out of my SGT DI and run that into one side of my in-ear transmitter. So my transmitter is stereo, but I run it in dual mono, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I will get a mix from monitor into one side of my transmitter, and I will send the SGT DI directly into the other side. And on my receiver pack, I can balance. If I need more bass, I just balance to that side of the transmitter. If I need more mix, I balance to the other side of the transmitter. And I can adjust the SGT DI to my likings in my ears and not have to bother the front of house guy. Whatever they're doing out front is on them.
Yeah.
So that's one way that I do it. That's kind of the general way that I will do it. If I don't know who's running front of house out front, I won't send them a clean signal. I will either send them a signal from my SGTDI, or I'll split that and I'll send them a model from my HX Stomp, like an SVT model. It's not drastic, but at least I know at least they're getting an SVT out in front of house. If I do know the front of house guy, I completely trust them. They know what I like and what I want to hear in front of house. So
Yeah.
that's the I got to say that's one of the beauties of the SGTDI too is there's a bunch of different ways you can split it. With the SCRDI, and I think you can do this with the SGTDI, was I used to send that out to front of house, but then I would have the monitor send me a return back into the aux in on yeah. And then I would come headphone out of the SCRDI into one side of it. It was really convoluted, but that I would send that into one side of my transmitter, and then same thing. I would just adjust the balance with my receiver pack.
It's kind of a nice hack too if you're having wireless issues with your in-ear receiver.
Yeah.
Or transmitter or anything. To basically get if you had an extender to hardwire that into your aux out or your phone rather.
Yeah. There's a million different ways you can do it. And I'm always the guy that's always like finding different ways to do things that the amp or a piece of gear wasn't necessarily designed to do.
Nice.
And sometimes it works, and a lot of times it works, but sometimes it doesn't. But either way, it's just kind of cool to like, oh, did you know you can do this? Just
I like Paul's motto here: evolution, not revolution. That's great.
Where is it? I'm trying to think where that is. I'll find out where that is.
I think second to last comment.
Oh, there we go. All right. Exactly.
Good motto.
Yep. And man, still loving my VB88. And you're using it as a keyboard cab.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Great. That's great. What are you powering it with, if you don't mind me asking?
I gotta try that.
Kirk is asking.
Yeah, I hear you, Kirk. I'm on the same page. Promise.
Yep. Just going. Well, in some degree, I'd say values exclusively. Oh, thank you for addressing that, Steve. Yeah, unless.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, cool. Thank you for input on that too. Keys has his saying. I know Keys as well. Don't model other brands, please. It sounds weird, but I'm using HX. Yeah, it doesn't sound weird. Again, it's this is it's not a problem, but this is the dilemma that Dom and I are faced with working with a 70-year-old brand. Do we make it Diamond Tolex? Do we make it AV Cosmetics? Do we reinvent the cosmetics like we did with Venture Base? Do we reinvent the cosmetics to kind of harken back to some of those vintage things? And do we do guitar amps? Do we do big studs? Do we do B50? Like it.
The amount of logos that Ampeg has had over the years, they're all cool. So it's like, how do we want to incorporate all of them somehow?
Yeah, but again, it's and again, it's like, do we look in the past? And that's one of the detriments of being a 70-year-old company is always looking in the past of what Ampeg has done, and do we reissue it? Do we redo it? Do we modify it? Do we do this or do we? And when we wipe the slate clean, and I think we did a good job of. I shouldn't say we, Dom. You did most of the work on that. Was wiping the slate clean with Venture. Redesign the helmet logo. So we got rid of the Ampeg script on the bottom and. The Tolex and the grill claw. I know you put a lot of brain work into doing something that was eminently Ampeg, but we've never done before. So you guys all applaud Dom for that. I was the old guy on the team going, I don't know, I like the diamond blue Tolex. So
I also do, but yeah.
Yeah.
That looks very expensive, by the way.
What's that? The Tolex?
Very expensive.
I know it is.
Actually, yeah.
Actually, so yeah.
I want to see a VB88 wrapped in the black diamond Tolex with the Portaflex grill. That would be sweet.
Who said that?
I just said it.
Oh,
special edition. It'd
well,
be a little pricey, but
you're the project manager, dude. You do it.
We could do that.
Yeah, just as a side note, my pickup truck needed a new tonneau cover.
Oh, yeah, those are not cheap either.
So I toyed with the fact of having Mark Gandenberg from
cool.
Vintage Blue do me the material and do a diamond. I wanted to do it in Vintage Blue, but with a red pickup truck, it would have looked kind of wonky. So the black diamond, like we use on the Portaflex, and but it was.
I was gonna say, if you could do an order of 2, if it'll make it cheaper, I'm down.
Well, here's one of the dilemmas. I guess the bolts or the fabric is only so wide, so there would have to be a seam halfway down the pickup truck, and you can't do that with. But I remember Jess Oliver. If you guys don't know who Jess is, Jess was president of Ampeg for years. He invented the B15, and he had an Oldsmobile with a Landau roof. If you guys don't know, I know I'm really dating myself now, but the Landau roof was half the roof was metal and the other half was either simulation vinyl or leather. He did his Landau roof in diamond blue Tolex.
That's awesome.
It was a white Oldsmobile with a blue diamond Tolex. I mean, it looked really classy.
That's really classy. That's cool.
Anyways, I know I'm getting way off track here, but a VB88 or maybe doing all the venture cabs or offering the venture cabs in a black diamond Tolex, how that would look, especially with the optional grill cloth, with the Portaflex grill cloth.
Yeah.
That might look kind of cool.
We're going to float that. We'll float that upstairs. Actually, I need to run to another meeting, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're getting ready to wrap up here. I know you said you had to cut out real quick or right at the top of the hour. So, man, it's been a great conversation. A lot of great information here and a lot of great, a lot of great input from everybody. And I don't think any of it was really like anything that we have to, there was no product specific things that we have to have people sign NDAs or any of that stuff. But yeah, guys,
really good feedback.
Cool. Yeah. And, by all means, feel free to reach out to Dom and I. You got my email address, demonoxylus@ampeg.com. I know I'm kind of brazen and putting that out there. I'm not going to throw Dom under the bus, but it is deliberati@ampeg.com.
Oh boy.
But if you can remember how to spell Liberatium and Oxalus, although it is right there on the screen. But anyways, if you guys have comments or questions or concerns but please don't send us product specific.
Yeah, because then we can't use it.
We have to delete it. Yeah, we can't use it. Dom, I know you got a split. Thank you, everybody. Aaron, Haji, thanks for having our backs on the back of this. We'll do this again, too. If you guys want to see more discussions and obviously it's great having artists on. We love having artists on to talk about their views and stuff. But it's always nice and healthy to just have Dom and I talk about products with you guys and Bronco.
This is
my buddy Bronco. And I'm gonna try and have an artist lined up for next week, but that's when the next scheduled SVT time is for next week, and hopefully we'll see you all then. All right, folks.